So this is Woolshed Flats. Get some refreshments. We're here about 45 minutes, and then it heads back to Quorn, where we started our journey in the first place. So what they'll do is they unhook the engine, and it goes up. It's more like a triangle. It goes up and comes around this way and hooks up to the what was the back end when we get here. In this episode, we are in the historic town of Quorn, a 20-minute drive from Wilmington, where we are based, or if you're driving from Adelaide, it's about a 3.5-hour drive. Today we are trading our trusty 4x4 to ride in a train. Established in 1875, Quorn has many historic sites to see, the most popular and significant being the historic Pichi Richi Railway. In 1917, Quorn became an important from a railway point of view in South Australia, as it was the point where north-south and east-west railway lines crossed. The railway station, built in 1915, still stands, and while Quorn was closed as a railway depot in 1956, the historic line was opened to tourists in 1974 by the Pichi Richi Railway Preservation Society, and thanks to them, we get to go on a ride in one of their refurbished steam trains today.
Hello. Hello. Last name Udawatta.
How the train runs is, there is one train that runs from Quorn all the way across to Port Augusta, turns around and comes back. Now that's about a day long, and that only happens on weekends. Whereas it's a Thursday for us today, and we are taking a shorter one, which goes from Quorn, where we are right now, to a place called Woolshed Flats, that's smack in the middle of the Flinders Ranges, turns around and then comes back. So that's about I think about 2.5-3 hour ride. I'm not too sure how long the stopover is. Now, one thing to remember is when you get to Woolshed Flats, you can buy refreshments and so on, but because there's no internet out there, it has to be cash. So I just realized I don't have cash on me, so used to using the card. So I'm gonna go across to the IGA supermarket over there and get myself some money. Wanted to share this little fact with you, historical fact. Now, way before the Australian states became part of the Commonwealth, the rail tracks, they made it narrow gauge. Of course, once all the states became part of the Commonwealth, that all changed, and the gauge is all standard gauge now. Construction on the railway started in 1878. It was extended to Udawatta in 1891, and then ultimately to Alice Springs in 1929. So by the time this was completed, the railway track ran a total of 1,240 kilometers. The famous Ghan passenger train traveled on this track from 1923 to 1956, starting with steam locomotives and then eventually to diesel-powered locomotives. Construction of the railway track in that era was very, very labor intensive. So when they cut through hills or rocks, all they had to use was pickaxes. Because of this reason, when they cut through rocks and hills, they cut just enough for the width of the train. And as we travel, we can literally reach out and touch the rock walls. Now, those of you who've been following my travel videos, a few years ago we did the Udawatta trek. Running parallel to the Udawatta trek is the remains of the old Ghan railway. And in that series, there's a whole number of spots we stopped and looked at, the remains of this amazing track that once existed. Also, in my recent Southern Flinders video series, we stopped at a historic town of Burra and went to the Burra railway station. So this is all part of the railway track that I'm talking of, and on which this train, once upon a time, ran regularly. Udawatta track, because it goes along the old Ghan railway, and there's a couple of bridges you can actually camp at night. So when you're camped at night, you can hear, because of the temperature change, you can hear the metal on the bridge creaking because it's contracting and expanding. What they do now, because the engine's got to turn around and head back to where we started. So this is Woolshed Flats. Get some refreshments. We're here about 45 minutes, and then it heads back to Quorn, where we started our journey in the first place. So what they'll do is they unhook the engine, and it goes up. It's more like a triangle. It goes up and comes around this way and hooks up to what was the back end when we got here, and then heads back. So you can see it in the distance there. So basically it backs up the triangle, and then it'll be facing this in this direction, so it can go right down and then back up and hook up.
Thanks for the food. This is a steam train. Are we leaving you behind? Yeah.
He's too busy here in the shot. You're disturbing. It's like, leave me alone, woman. I'm trying to get a picture here. I'm sure that was yours. I would have done the same.